Hey, morning. Alright, in this video I wanted to talk about something that I came across this morning. Is this book, Strengths Finder. I don't know if this will be forward or backward for you, but it's by Tom Ross, or Rass. It's a continuation of work that's been done by, people who look into people's personality stuff for the last 5 decades or something. Anyway, I wanted to read the beginning of this, the introduction to part 1, because I realized that I found this book and this, it's like a personality quiz or assessment kind of thing, like 2 months before I found human design. And so whatever was carrying me down that path, could have been recommendations from other people or whatever. It's funny that these two things came together, and revisiting this now, 5.5 years later, really, what I'm seeing, I think, is a pattern that is like I can recognize in the 5 strengths. Sorry about the roosters. Sorry, neighbor roosters. Inside of the 5 strengths that I identified then, so I might be interested to go ahead and do it again. The book itself comes with a coupon thingy, or a code that you can use in a website that they have. So I might go do it again just out of curiosity to see if it turns out the same 5 years later, after being in my human design experiment. Anyway, what I wanted to read was the beginning of this section 1, because to me this is something that made the most sense to me ever this is like the whole point to me. So the title is The Path of Most Resistance. At its fundamentally flawed core, the aim of almost any learning program is to help us become who we are not. If you don't have natural talent with numbers, you're still forced to spend time in that area to a degree. If you're not very empathetic, you get sent to a course designed to infuse empathy into your personality. From the cradle to the cubicle, we devote more time to our shortcomings than to our strengths. This is quite apparent in the way we create icons out of people who struggle to overcome a lack of natural talent. Consider the true story of Rudi Rudiger, the 23-year-old groundskeeper at Notre Dame Stadium, who was the protagonist of the 1993 movie Rudy. At just 5'6" and 165 pounds, this young man clearly didn't possess the physical ability to play big-time college football, but he had ample heart. Rudy worked tirelessly to gain admission to Notre Dame so he could play football there. Eventually, after being rejected 3 times, he was accepted at Notre Dame, and soon thereafter earned a spot on the football team's practice squad. For 2 years, Rudy took a beating in daily practices, but he was never allowed to join his team on the sidelines. Then, after trying as hard as he could for 2 seasons, Rudy was finally invited to suit up for the final game of his senior year. In the last moments of this game, with a Notre Dame victory safely in hand, Rudy's teammates lobbied their coach to put him in the game. In the final seconds, the coach sent Rudy for a single play, and he tackled the opposing team's quarterback. It was a dramatic moment, and of course, Rudy became an instant hero. Fans chanted his name and carried him off the field. Rudiger was later invited to the White House, where he met President Bill Clinton, Colin Powell, and football legend Joe Montana. While Rudy's perseverance is admirable, in the end, he played a few seconds of college football and made a single tackle after thousands of hours of practicing. The inspirational nature of the story actually masks a significant problem. Overcoming deficits is an essential part of the fabric of our culture. Our books, our movies, and folklore are filled with stories of the underdog who beats 1 in a million odds. And this leads us to celebrate those who triumph over their lack of natural ability, even more than we recognize those who capitalize on their innate talents. As a result, millions of people see these heroes as being the epitome of the American dream and set their sights on conquering major challenges. Unfortunately, this is taking the path of most resistance. Is this a misguided maxim? You can be anything you want to be if you just try hard enough. Like most people, I embraced this maxim at a young age. Along with thousands of other kids, I spent a good chunk of my childhood trying to be the next Michael Jordan. Every day, I practiced shooting hoops for 3 or 4 hours. I went to basketball camps each summer and tried in every way possible to be a great player. No matter how hard I worked at it, though, becoming an NBA star wasn't in the cards for me. After giving 100% of my effort for more than 5 years, I couldn't even make the junior varsity team. Embracing the "you can be anything you want to be" maxim isn't something we outgrow. Similar scenarios play out in the workplace every day. A star salesperson thinks she can be a great sales manager with enough effort. She interviews other managers to gain insight. She reads every book on management she can find and stays late every night to get the job done, at the expense of her family and even her health. Then, a few years into the job, she realizes that she doesn't have the natural talent to develop other people. Not only is this a waste of her time, but chances are she could have increased her contribution even more if she'd stayed in the sales role, a role in which she naturally excelled. Yet, if we want additional income, status, or responsibility, most organizational hierarchies force us into a very different role, instead of allowing for an entire career of progression within a specific role that fits our talents. What's even more disheartening is the way our fixation on deficits affects young people in the home and classroom. So here's where I am all over this because of all of our unschooling. We're an unschooling family. We unschool. Everybody has unschooled for the last 20 years, really. Which sometimes means going to school, don't get me wrong, and sometimes means having a job. It just depends on the person. Anyway, back to this. In every culture, we have studied the overwhelming majority of parents, 77% in the United States, that think that a student's lowest grades deserve the most time and attention. Parents and teachers reward excellence with apathy instead of investing more time in the areas where the child has the most potential for greatness. The reality is that a person who has always struggled with numbers is unlikely to be a great accountant or statistician. And the person without much natural empathy will never be able to comfort an agitated customer in the warm and sincere way that the great empathizers can. Even the legendary Michael Jordan, who embodied the power of raw talent on a basketball court, could not become, the Michael Jordan of golf or baseball, no matter how hard he tried. This might sound like a heretical point of view, especially for those of us who grew up believing the essential American myth that we could become anything we wanted. Yet it's clear from Gallup's research that each person has greater potential for success in specific areas, and the key to human development is building on who you already are. Enter human design, yeah? The following real-life example from Gallup's economic development work in Puebla, Mexico, provides a basic yet powerful illustration of what can happen when people focus on their natural talents. Hector has always been known as a great shoemaker. In fact, customers from Such far-off places as France claimed that Hector made the best shoes in the world. Yet for years, he had been frustrated with his small shoemaking business. Although Hector knew he was capable of making hundreds of shoes per week, he was averaging just 30 pairs. When a friend asked him why, Hector explained that while he was great at producing shoes, he was a poor salesman. And, I guess he was only selling 30 pairs. I guess he was only making them to sell. I guess that's the point, making them as he was being paid to make them. And terrible when it came to collecting payments. Yet he spent most of his time working in these areas of weakness. So Hector's friend introduced him to Sergio, a natural salesman and marketer. Just as Hector was known for his craftsmanship, Sergio could close deals and sell. Given the way their strengths complemented one another, Hector and Sergio decided to work together. A year later, this strengths-based duo was producing and selling and collecting payment for more than 100 pairs of shoes per week, more than a threefold increase. While this story may seem simplistic, in many cases, aligning yourself with the right task can be this easy. When we're able to put most of our energy into developing our natural talents, extraordinary room for growth exists. So a revision to the "you can be anything you want to be" maxim might be more accurate like this: you cannot be anything you want to be, but you can be more, a lot more, of who you already are.